Critical Frames, a PlayStation podcast, is available on all mainstream audio and video feeds. Find out how you can support the show by heading over to patreon.com/criticalframes.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Frames, a PlayStation podcast. It's been a little over a week, and we're back playing some new games, having some fun. Got a few interesting topics for you here. I went and saw Joker 2. I know. I bet you're all jealous. Interested to hear what Joe's been up to this week. Joe, how are you doing this week? What have you been up to? Anything new and exciting since we last talked?
Yeah, so I beat Dead Rising, the deluxe remaster. That was fun. Got the platinum on it. Grinded out 53,000... something around that number, 53,000 like zombies kills, which is. I mean, it took me like 4 hours, and I had to go into I had to look it up what the most efficient way is, and I had to go into a tunnel with like an infinite rocket launcher and just sit for 4 hours blasting zombies like an absolute.
And it was worth
massacre.
it, huh?
Oh, I loved it. It was brilliant. I loved every minute of it. Absolute OCD brain over here. But yeah, did that, and then I started up Cyberpunk, and oh my god, I'll leave it until what we've been playing, but God, this game is just it's
game's goated.
It's goated. It's fucking goated, and it
removed from its launch issues,
and
fixed. It's hard to complain about that game.
Yes, it is. It is amazing. I've still got like a tickly cough from when I was a tickly throat from when I was ill. So if you hear me muting my mic, or not hearing me.
A tickly throat.
Yeah,
is that something you guys say over there?
Yeah. I've got like a frog in my throat. I think is a phrase. Yeah. But yeah, I've still getting over that a little bit. Like, it's weird. It's like I'm not feeling ill at all, but it's like it keeps coming up. You know what I mean? It's annoying.
Yeah.
And been running. I just got back from a 10-kilometer run, which was lovely. Had headphones in this time around as well, which was not normally a thing. Normally I raw dog it. Normally there's nothing there. It's just me and then like nature. But it was really nice, and I went and did a loop basically. And when I did the first sort of loop for it, I saw like an elderly couple, and when I came back, I met them again because I lapped them, and they were like, "Have we just seen you?" I was like, "Yeah, you just see me. I've just lapped. Like, I've just done like."
Did you
5K.
laugh in their faces and you slow mother?
No. But yeah, so that was.
You should have said
fun.
On your left, you know.
I did say that today, actually.
Really?
But to a family, because they were blocking the way, and I was like, on your left.
Okay.
But that was pretty fun. What else have I been doing? Yeah, that's about it. I mean, I've been to a place called Newark today because I worked a couple of hours at a show. But that was fine. Yeah. Basically just been chilling. And I've also been, you know how on the last episode or the episode before that, I'm not really into TV anymore. I don't watch films and stuff. I've eaten my words so hard because I've recently picked up this really corny, but really fun and just turn your brain off police procedural show, right? Police drama called The Rookie. People probably would have heard it. It's got Nathan Fillion in. And he produces
that
it.
show, with Nathan Fillion. Okay,
yeah, it's cool. I gotta admit, it's something that I would have never expected me to actually enjoy. But I find the characters and the world and I mean, it's schlocky as fuck, and the amount of
it's a little better than what I thought you were watching. I thought you were watching Little House on the Prairie. You know,
no, my dad used to watch that though. He loves Little House on the Prairie. But I've been watching TV, which is surprising. But I've got to catch up on 6 seasons of it, or some shit, or 5 seasons, or something like that. So I've just finished season 1. There's a lot of episodes per season as well. There's 20 episodes.
I'm guessing The Rookie he did before Castle.
No, Castle was before, I think.
Oh, so Rookie's newer then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, The Rookie's been on since 2018 or some shit. So maybe Castle came after, but The Rookie's lasted longer. I don't know.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Do you have allergies at all, Joe?
No.
Okay. I wonder, because you said your kind of sickness is just kind of lingering around a bit. I have had a off and on noticeably sore throat for weeks. And basically when I remember to take antihistamine, allergy stuff, I don't have a problem, but then I forget to take it and my throat hurts again. So I'm I don't know. Over here, at least, I know the pollen's really high and allergies, weather's changing over. So, but if you don't have allergies, then I don't know. You guess you're just taking a while to get out of your system.
I think Yeah, I don't know. I think I didn't help myself because when I was ill, I was playing like a lot of like Terraria with friends.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously when you're playing with friends, you're having a good time, you're laughing, and then that like when you laugh a lot, like there was one point where I was like cry laughing because something happened. And like when it's like in your throat and like you start like you can't stop laughing, and then
Mm-hmm.
you end up realizing like that's all gone on your throat now and you fucked up. Like that's basically where I'm at. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine. It's just it's kind of weird when you're running because it's like you get phlegmy and then you like you cough and then you carry on coughing and it's like it kind of interrupts the flow. But aside from that, all good. What about you?
Did lots more. Well, I actually like, I kind of tapered it down a little bit, but I did quite a bit of door dashing in the last
Mm-hmm.
week. I didn't go as hard as I did the first week because I just did so well the first week. And I really pushed myself. So this week I took it easier. But technically, what's crazy is between selling a few things and DoorDash, I have enough for the PS5 Pro already.
Nice.
I
There we
have
go.
because I needed 450 and in my bank account. Plus, then I sell the PS5 normal and I'll get the Pro. So I have exactly 450 now. So yeah, I plan to still DoorDash and stuff for like my own having extra money. But yeah, I mean the PS5 Pro is no longer a worry. It's in the bag, baby.
Yeah, got it stacked.
good.
That's awesome. Actually, on purchases, I forgot to say, I bought a new desk recently.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Standing desk.
Yes, it's a sit standing desk. It's from a brand called FlexiSpot, which I think are like one of the best in the business for sit stand desks. Very reliable, very strong. They're like best one that's like £1,000. Like, and it's like rated up to like fucking 75 kilograms or some shit, which is ridiculous. It's like, what am I putting on there? Like, am I putting a body on there? Like, what's going on? Like,
maybe.
Yeah. So so I've gone with I've gone with like the third best because it's the one I need. I don't need anything more. I don't need to be so indulgent. And I've got like all the extras for it and stuff. And then I also got like a little because I'm thinking of like sort of redecorating this room a little bit. You know, like. I kind of want to go for like a browny, like sort of dull green approach with maybe gold accents. And I've had this desk here, which is like an IKEA white desk. It's shit for like ages. It's scuffed as fuck. Like it just needs to go. It's going to get smashed up and chucked and thrown in the skip. So yeah, I'm very excited for that. And I've bought like a little side table for it as well, like a shelving unit. That's also so the desktop is walnut, right? And then that table is also walnut, so it like matches and stuff. And it'll be really nice. Just clean up my system a little bit, do some proper cable management and stuff because that's featured in the desk as well. Like you can.
It'll be satisfying.
Yeah, it'd be really satisfying. So I'll like spend like 2 or 3 days just like messing with it and stuff. So
Joe,
yeah, very excited.
Your desk and computer and PS5 Pro anniversary is going to be like more money than some people's cars.
Yeah, I know.
It's a lot.
I know, Ryan.
It's cool though. I fully condone it. Yeah. I would condone it if you weren't single, but the fact that you are, it's like, bro, go get yourself a $600 white digital discless Xbox Series X while you're at it. No, don't. That's a waste of money.
No, don't do that.
That's a waste of money.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
So DoorDashing, got the money for the PS5 Pro. And then kind of the other thing that I've been really up to is I saw Joker 2, Joker Folie à Deux in the movie theater.
Yeah.
And as most of you probably know, it's getting completely shit on by critics and audiences and bombing at the box office, despite the first film making over $1 billion and being critically and audience loved. So no spoilers at all for Joker 2, but full spoilers potentially for Joker 1, which is now 5 years old. But did you see Joker 1? I can't remember.
I did.
Did you like it?
Yeah, it was good. I would probably give it like a 8 out of 10, I would say, something like that.
Yeah, I loved the first movie. And the second movie is just, I mean, people just hate it. And I mean, nobody's turning up to see it. So, I mean, a lot of people who hate it probably just read something about it online and hate it. But that doesn't mean they wouldn't actually hate it if they saw it because, once again, no spoilers, but Joker 2 is a partial musical. And it also is more about the consequences of the first movie than it is like what Joker's up to in the second movie. Like the whole second movie is like, oh, yeah, he did all this stuff in the first movie. Now he has to go to court and he's in jail and all this stuff. And it's also got musical elements. So it's kind of crazy because on one hand, like I get that people don't like it. I get that people don't want to see it because I think what people wanted out of this movie was Joker gets with Harley and they're on the town screwing crap, like just screwing shit up and like causing chaos and having
traditional
fun
Batman stuff. Yeah.
But that's not what it is. This, the first movie and the second movie, I think, are really about the character of Arthur Fleck. That's the character's name. Like, I know that he takes on the persona of Joker, but like, it really feels like the second movie is a sequel to the first, but it's about Arthur Fleck more than is Joker. And I think most modern audiences just want to see cool ass Joker screw shit up.
Yeah.
And for me, as someone who really loved the angle of the first movie with like the mental illness and the how weird he is and like the instability, to me, the sequel was exactly what I wanted. I wasn't looking to have this Joker fantasy. And I keep hearing that like a lot of people like really identified with Joker in the first movie. And I was just like, I never identified with him. Like, I don't know why you would identify with him. He's a loony. He's a freaking loon ball. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
So the second movie just completely worked for me. I do think it has problems. I think it could have been better, but saying it could have been better doesn't mean I don't think it's good. Like I actually think it's a legitimately good movie. But obviously the vast majority disagree with me. But unless you just hate anything musical related, then I'd say give it a shot. Some people are like, I can't stand it. People sing, I hate the movie. I'm like, okay, well then I guess don't watch it because that does happen. But I really enjoyed it. So I've been going back and I rewatched Joker 1 again. And now I'm watching The Batman with Robert Pattinson. And
love that film.
I considered seeing Joker 2 again today. I don't think I'm going to, but I considered it because I just really enjoyed the movie. But
good.
Yeah. So it's pretty much been Joker 2, door dashing, playing Silent Hill with my wife, which I'll get to more when we get to the what we're playing section. But yeah, that's pretty much been my week.
Yeah.
So.
I find the Joker 2 as a premise to be strange, right? Because what I liked about the Joker 1's ending particularly is because he's in that like mental ward or whatever he's in. There's like it has an option for ambiguity in terms of everything that happened, did it actually happen or was it just in his mind, right? Joker 2 kind of scratches that idea completely, I assume, with the scenario he's in.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, you're right. Like because when Joker 1 ends, it's like he shot the talk show host.
Yep.
And then he's in the back of the police car and the other clown people break him out of the police car and he stands on top of it and everyone's kind of like worshiping him. And then it goes to him in like his cell and he's talking to like a therapist or whatever. And, and it almost paints it as like, oh, did any of that happen? Was he just in the loony bin and he was making it all up?
Yeah.
So the second film does definitively make it
like it happened.
It all did really happen. But the thing I think that still works there is, if you recall in the first film, he has a lot of things in the first film he thought that happened that didn't. And the first film tells you it didn't. He has this whole thing with his neighbor who lives across the hall in the apartment complex, Zazie Beetz.
Yeah.
Where he's like, she's his girlfriend and they hang out and they go do stuff together. And within the first movie, it shows you that, oh, none of that was true. She was never with him.
Yeah.
So, and then in the second movie, it continues to show stuff happening that doesn't really happen.
Yes.
So I think it maintains the, him being delusional, but I think, and I mean, maybe I'm just being defensive of Joker 2. That could be possible, but I do think the intention behind Joker 1 was that stuff happened.
Right. Okay.
And the reason I think that is because, like I said, Joker 1 pointed out all the things that were not real. So if it ended and all of that was supposed to be in his head, it's like, well, then why did it point out stuff that wasn't real if none of it was?
Gotcha.
So I think the intention was that it was real, but maybe I'm just coping for the sequel. But I do think like there's a good argument to be made, even if I think the second movie's good, even if I liked it and I'm glad it's here.
Yeah.
There's probably a good argument to be made that like if you just left it alone, it would have just been a movie that made a ton of money, people loved, and that would have been it. And the book is open and shut.
Yes.
Now you have this whole, second movie that flopped. A lot of people don't like it. Some people will have like, I've never been like this, but a lot, there's going to be people out there who are like, well, I hate the first movie now because I saw the second.
Yeah.
And that sucks. If for people who have that experience, like that sucks. I hate that for you, but I don't get it.
Yeah.
Because I can separate that stuff. I mean, it's just like me like playing like, loving Halo 1 and then like, oh, I can't stand Halo 1 anymore because Halo 5 sucked. It's like, come on, like it's still awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I had to deal with like The Last Jedi with Star Wars and stuff. I had to like, you have to compartmentalize kind of your love for stuff, even if you don't. Because no one can necessarily force themselves to love something. Like you can keep going back to the well and trying. And I have always said like, it's kind of like with The Last of Us Part 2, the same thing. It's like, I want to go back and watch The Last Jedi and watch those sequel films again to see if I click with them more. And same with The Last of Us Part 2. And you can keep trying to do that, but ultimately it's really hard, right? It's really difficult to get over that hurdle. So the best you can do is compartmentalize and go, okay, that's not for me. I don't like what they did, but this stuff before is great on its own, and that's why I appreciate. So yeah, more people should be doing that, I guess, with the Joker, because that first film is good. I remember it got trashed by some reviewers, though, right? Like the first one, it was kind of like...
Well, and that's I don't want to talk forever about Joker 2, but that's another thing that like has people hating Joker 2 is because I don't know if you recall, maybe the news was different over in your country than ours, but like the news about Joker 1 when it came out was all about how it was going to inspire shootings and killings and murders.
Really? Okay, yeah.
Yes,
we didn't get any of that.
We have such problems with that already in this country.
Yeah.
And Joker 1, if you think about it, like it could be really inspiring for someone to do heinous shit.
Yes.
Because it's glorified in
Joker 1. It kind of gives
1.
people an out, right? Like...
Yeah. And so a lot of reviewers were like, this is dangerous. And like they gave the movie a lower score for that, which I personally found was unfair.
Yeah.
But Joker 2 is very much more about like, oh, if you thought Joker 1 was cool and you identify with it, it wasn't cool and you're dumb to identify with it. And here's the consequence.
Yes.
And I think that's not what people wanted with Joker 2. They were wanting the fantasy of Joker. And it's very much like he's got to live up to the stuff he's done.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why I think people hate it, but we can move on from them anyways. Joe, I got some good stuff here to get into. This first one's more of like an opinion piece, but it's something that I know I've been saying all year, and I think you've been saying it as well. And this is kind of interesting. This comes from IGN, but it is a column written by Push Square. So I guess I'm not on IGN enough to know this, but I guess sometimes they like assumedly hire like Push Square to do an article for their site, because this is an IGN article, but it's written by Push Square. So the headline is, Sony warned that 2024 would be a light year for games, but PS5 still has the best games. So reading along here. Sony sparked discontent among the PlayStation fandom in February this year when it said during an earnings call, there will be no sequels or updates to major existing franchise titles on the PS5 before March 2025. With the platform holder keeping its content roadmaps close to the chest, the comments were largely taken out of context, and many assumed this would be a lean year for the company's new-gen console. While it's true this has been a fairly quiet year for PlayStation Studios, it's been anything but light on the games front. At the time of writing, my 3 Game of the Year front runners are Astro Bot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantazio. And the PS5 is the only platform where you can play all 3. Other possible contenders for awards include Silent Hill 2, Helldivers 2, and Black Myth Wukong, all console exclusives. There seems to be a sentiment on social media that a game doesn't count unless it comes from a wholly owned first-party studio, but PlayStation has done a particularly good job of working with partners to keep its portfolio packed this year. Stellar Blade is a great example. It collaborated with Korean developer Shift Up to help bring the Nikki Goddess of Victory creator's console debut to market, and in my opinion is another game in contention for an end-of-the-year gong. Rise of the Ronin, a similar partnership with legendary studio Team Ninja, may have received a cooler reception, but it's currently ranked 17th in IGN's ongoing Game of the Year user poll, proving it was a hit with fans. The nauseating number of remakes and remasters may not be to everyone's taste, but it's easy to forget that The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered launched this year and tagged a 90 critical average on aggregators Metacritic and OpenCritic. And while many rolled their eyes at the rumors around Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, a $10 upgrade fee and re-recorded dialogue and motion capture mean it'll almost certainly attract positive reviews as well. Of course, not everything PlayStation has touched this year has turned to gold. Its complete misreading of the market with first-person shooter Concord, a competent, albeit uninspiring affair, will go down in history after getting axed after just 2 weeks. And yet, for all the talk of its live service initiative stumbling, it launched the fastest selling game in PS Studios history with Helldivers 2, an online co-op smash that, despite benefiting from a simultaneous PC launch, has outpaced juggernauts like Marvel's Spider-Man 2 and God of War Ragnarok. So that's most of the article there, but I'll kind of just conclude by saying what they're going on to say anyways, which is this is a year that Sony themselves have said is going to be a light year, and fans all over have said like Sony doesn't have anything. But it's funny in a year where Sony doesn't have anything from the sense of like first party studios very much. It is an incredible year for the platform and pretty much outclasses everything around them in a year where their studios really aren't doing much. I mean, basically with the cancellation of Concord, it really just came down to Astro Bot as their only first party game this year.
Yeah.
But despite that, there's still Rise of the Ronin only on their platform, Stellar Blade, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Helldivers 2. It just goes on and on, all these different games that have come exclusively to that platform. And then you have Black Myth Wukong they mentioned, which is not on Xbox or Switch or anything like that. And you look at the competition with Xbox, Xbox had Hellblade 2, which kind of came and went, like a 5-hour game. Nintendo Switch has had like a new Zelda top-down, which is cool. It's had like a Princess Peach game that didn't do very well.
Yeah.
Showtime, I can't remember. What's that? Showtime, yeah. I can't remember quite much else Nintendo's done, but like PlayStation
Paper Mario
is clearly...
was this year? Was that...
What's that?
Was the Paper Mario game this year? Was that...
the Paper Mario remake, that was this year, Thousand Year Door.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to have Mario Brothership, the new RPG, Mario RPG, I think later this year. But pretty much overall, like the best place to get the best new games is still the PlayStation, and it's not particularly close. And that's even with the failure of Concord in the mix. Yeah. So I just think it goes to show that Sony has more going on for them than just big, heavy-hitting AAA in-house exclusives. They have the know-how to get with the right partners to have great second-party exclusives. They partner with the right people. Their system and their ecosystem overall is very desirable. People want to be on this platform. People like the services. I mean, this year, it hasn't come out yet, but the PS5 Pro is coming out, a new high-end model of the console. We have things like the Portal, which is like a way to play portably on the console. All these special headsets, VR. Sony's just really positioned themselves to be kind of a jack of all trades, and kind of like Apple, and having like their version of everything and always having content to come back to.
Yeah.
And we saw the excitement when Ghost of Yotei was announced just a few weeks ago, being like a true first party exclusive coming out next year. But even without that, they just kind of killed it this year. So I guess my question to you, Joe, is one, how do you think they did this year? And two, do you think we see Sony looking like this a lot more going forward, or is this just an off season? So basically, do we see a lot more years where they're like good years with a lot of deals and second parties? Mm-hmm. Or do you think we're going to get back into like a 2-3 first party games a year? Like, is this more of here to stay or just for now? And what do you think of this year?
Yeah, it's weird. This year's a weird one, right? Because I've said loads on this podcast, like ad nauseum, like this is a transitionary year for PlayStation. We know it to be so. There's leadership changes, like plenty. And ultimately, it's not been the best year for them. I would say it's been a very weak year for them. In fact, like I would probably give them like, I don't know, I'd probably give them like a 5-6 out of 10 in terms of like what they've done. Most of those negative points come from the fact that they flopped Concord harder than, a lead balloon dropping from altitude. But I will say that like outside of that, they've done a really good job of like staying afloat despite obviously, that issue and the fact that it's a weak year. And it's wild to me that this year in and of itself is, despite it being such a weak year for PlayStation as a whole, compared to, years where Sean Layden was, the head or whatever, or even, Jim Ryan previously, this year is still pretty amazing comparatively to the competitors, like you said, compared to Xbox. And the fact that Xbox, like, this was their year to kind of like source on Xbox in many ways, like have something in the lineup that really like goes, oh my God, like there's what the fuck? Like, is this changing? Like, is the pendulum swinging like back? Nintendo.
To their credit, they did boom with Power World at the beginning of the year, but that's also now on PlayStation. So
100%, yeah. And then you have obviously Hellblade 2. What's the subtitle for that? Hellblade 2
Senua's Saga.
Senua's Saga, yeah.
But Hellblade 2 didn't seem to really move the needle at all. Yeah.
No, which is weird, right? Because the first one was like really, really, really good. Like people were like, that's a fucking hit.
I liked the second one.
Yeah.
I played it. I talked about it with like two people, and then no one ever said anything again. So.
Yeah, 100%. So, and then Nintendo, they're on like a weird position right now where we're obviously anticipating the Switch 2. So it's kind of like one of those things where like I feel like in terms of like their game lineup and stuff, you're not really getting like the big heavy hitter platform generation defining titles from them yet. I feel like they're biding their time, very cleverly so, because they're Nintendo. They can afford that privilege to just go. And not saying this year's been bad for them at all. I would say probably like in terms of their profits, their return on investments, they've done better than Sony. I would argue because you know Concord is a massive hit to PlayStation's bottom line, but. Yeah, dude. I think Nintendo's in a weird spot right now where they just need to like kind of shit or get off the potty with this Nintendo Switch 2. Going forward, to answer that question, I don't know. It's hard, right? Because we've got a very different kind of like leadership style going on right now. You've got one that's ahead of the software, and you've got one that's the head of the studios. And Herman, knowing who he is an individual that likes to perpetuate and exude the pride of the studios under him, right? Like he's very close with everyone. He's always visiting people. He was visiting like, you know, Kojima Productions before he was even leader. He's just very pally with everyone. And to me, that is clear signs that I think he's gonna get PlayStation back on the horse when it comes to, you know, having these console exclusives, having these blockbuster titles, giving you a reason to want to play single player games in a very live service market. And then also you have obviously your secondary person who is working the software, whose name is escaping me right now, the Japanese guy. But yeah, I think it's a very interesting thing. I think you're going to see more emphasis on AAA first party games coming forward. Maybe not as much as what we saw in the PlayStation 4 generation in the latter years, 2018 to 2016 to 2018. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm very excited because in many ways, like PlayStation have kind of, people always say like PlayStation rely on the laurels and they ride the like coattails of the PlayStation 4 right now. And that is right. But at the same time, that has given them the breathability within the PlayStation 5 generation, I would say, to give themselves a little bit of a head start, not just in obviously the games, but also like signing those deals and stuff like Rise of Ronin and stuff like that, which is selling faster than things like Neo right now. And I think that's pretty incredible. You know, you're partnering with outside studios and you're making the smart business decisions to not just swallow everyone up like Microsoft are doing and then going, oh shit, now we need to figure out how to pay this stuff. They get the deals.
12,000 people off. Yeah.
Yes, they get their deals, they get the games, they get the timed exclusivity or whatever it is, and then they go, right, that's it. Like, we'll work with you in the future potentially, but we're not going to buy you because we don't need you. Like, we're comfortable as is. And so yeah, and I think Concord is probably going, like, the situation with Concord is going to reinstate that as well. To the current leadership. You know, we don't need to buy all these studios like Jim Ryan probably did back in the day. So, yeah,
we just threw our money away with how that ended up turning out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, I wonder how many people, like, what, just assign a percentage, Joe, like, what percentage of people do you think actually look at the games that are coming out from the PlayStation in a very, like, is that first party, is that second party way? Because, like, next year, we're getting Ghosts of Yotei and Death Stranding 2 on the beach. And I have to, even somebody like me who talks about this stuff all the time, I have to actively remind myself, oh, wait a minute, Death Stranding 2 is not first party.
Yes, yeah.
But it sure as heck feels like it, because it feels like a PlayStation game. It's only on PlayStation. You know, it's a deal that they've made. But like, what percentage of people do you think actually look at this like, oh, not first party? You know,
are we talking about every gamer?
I'm talking about everyone who plays on PlayStation. Like
you're probably not even looking at double digits. I can't even lie.
I was thinking like less than 5%.
Yeah. You're looking at single digits, honestly. The amount of times I have a conversation with my colleague who's younger than me, He doesn't know as much about the industry at all as us. But he plays games. He plays like obviously Fallout New Vegas, plays Minecraft and stuff. He always is like, oh yeah, well, PlayStation don't have any games. It's like, what about everyone else? It's like, if PlayStation don't have games, you guys, them lot don't have games. And it's like, you know, like, how far do you want to split the hairs? And the people aren't tuned in like that. And ultimately, when they sign these deals and they get these games on the platform, it's one of those things where it doesn't really matter, like, if they're first party owned, if they're, you know, bought in, if it's a second party deal, whatever it is. It's kind of one of the reasons why, like, when I talk about Xbox and I voice my disdain for the way they do their practices, it's not like the exclusivity is barely ever the problem for me. I'm genuinely like, I rarely ever talk about like, oh, it's bullshit. Like, I don't think I've ever said on this podcast, it's bullshit because Xbox have this game as an exclusive. I don't think I've ever said that. I always go, it's bullshit because you are funding a studio in a game that you cannot fund. Like, you're trying to, you know, run before you can walk. And it's the same with PlayStation. It's like, you know, when you throw a first party game at me, a second party game, I know it. And I'm like, that's cool that, like, that's a thing. And, you know, they're proud to have that studio and they're working with, you know, say like Kojima, you know, and they're giving him creative, you know, an unrestricted, like, blank canvas of creativity. That's brilliant. But ultimately, I don't care that it's that if it's exclusive or not. It's the same thing when we talk about the PC guys getting like God of War Ragnarok now and stuff like that. Like, later on, it's like, I don't care. Like, it's
really
matter.
All semantics, right? Because wouldn't I be correct in saying that Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is an Xbox first party game? You know, it is. Yeah. But like, who cares? Essentially, that doesn't really mean anything if you think about it. Like, that's an Activision Blizzard game that really hasn't hardly even come within the walls of a Microsoft building. It's just that they own it, you know? So it's like, I mean, like, to me, Death Stranding 2 is going to feel more like a PlayStation first party exclusive than Call of Duty is going to seem like an Xbox first party. It's all just kind of semantics at the end of the day. And like, if the game's of good quality, then it's kind of like, who cares? I mean, I know for me, I'd say like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, amazing. That feels like a AAA top first party quality game that is technically not owned by Sony. And then for you, even Helldivers 2, one of, if not your game of the year, feels like it's PlayStation, but because of a deal, but it's not first party either. So it's like, who really cares? You know? I think what matters. I think what matters is the reason why we're not getting first party Sony games. And I think that's really what it is. I think we don't talk about that as enough, is like, we're mad that we're not getting first party Sony stuff now because we know they pivoted to live service shit.
Yes.
Like, that's a bad reason to not be getting it, but to not be getting it in general doesn't really matter if we're still getting showered with great content. So
no. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely.
Moving on to talk about the success of Astro Bot just a little bit here. This also comes from Push Square. Acclaimed PS5 platformer Astro Bot really couldn't be selling any better. Here's the thing. Astro Bot is never going to outsell a series like Super Mario. It just doesn't have the legacy to do so. It's also never going to outsell stalwart series like Call of Duty or EA Sports FC. They're just commercially more popular. But it sounds like in Europe, the PS5 platformer couldn't be doing much better. Quote, it's done better than basically every new 3D platform game in the last 10 years, explained games industry biz Christopher Dring on Twitter, adding that this excludes Super Mario games. He added, quote, its true success won't be known for years, but it's had a strong start for the genre. Platformers tend to act as evergreen games, so Sony will be counting on good sales for years to come. Dring expanded that in the first month on the market in Europe, the Team Asobi exclusive has sold 34% more copies than Sonic Frontiers and approximately 52% more copies than Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time. While both titles were notoriously slow starters requiring aggressive price reductions to help improve their performance, they're more established brands available on multiple platforms. So it's positive stuff for Astro Bot. And we know that, I know Sega was happy with Sonic Frontiers, and I know that I think Activision wasn't happy with the sales of Crash Bandicoot 4. I'm pretty sure Crash Bandicoot 4 sold something like well over 5 million units. I think we read about that. So these are good signs for this brand new, well, it's not really a brand new IP, but Astro Bot's probably going to feel like a brand new IP to many on one platform. Seems like it's selling really well. I'm just surprised that we haven't seen like Astro Bot's hit 1 million copies sold, because we know for a fact it's sold 1 million copies. There's no way it hasn't. Yeah. But that hasn't come out yet. So I do wonder when we'll see an official update, but what do you kind of think? Like, How many copies do you think this is going to sell, Joe? Like, I'm thinking we could hear 5 million in a couple years.
Yeah.
But then I'm also thinking that we could hear like 10 million in 10 years, which of course that would be sold at discounted prices.
Yes. Yep.
It wouldn't be the same as full price, but I think Astro Bot might be like a 10 million seller over a long time with sales, but
yes,
even several million at full price.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just going back on what you said, Crash Bandicoot, the fourth one got 5 million copies. It actually surpassed 5 million copies. It's just that Toys for Bob / Activision were like, oh, that's not good enough.
Not good enough, yeah. Because Call of Duty shits out like 25 million.
Yeah. Call of Duty makes that money in a weekend on microtransactions and season passes. But yeah, so I don't know. It's one of those things where I think that we often get it conflated when we talk about kind of sales and like budgets and stuff like that, because everyone's like, oh yeah, it's only sold like 1 million copies, or it's only sold 2 million copies or whatever. It's like, yeah, but like, are you looking at the budget as well? Are you talking about the return on investment? Like, we're talking about the net? Because it's like, it's one of those things where so many people like they compare one to the other, and it's like, yeah, but you're looking at like probably maybe 1.5 times, 2 times the amount of budget for platformer A to platformer B. I mean, I don't know how much like Nintendo spent on Odyssey, for example, but that sold ridiculous like copies, and it's like that might have been like way more in budget than Astro Bot. You don't know. And Astro Bot, I think, is a sub 100 million. I think we looked it up, right? It's pretty low in terms of, and it's a small studio as well, so it's very quaint.
And they only developed for 3 years.
Yep, it was a three-year turnaround time after Playroom. Yeah, dude, it's one of those things where this game for me is definitely, like you said, I think it should be on track for selling 10 million copies in years to come. It's one of those games that I think people won't, like, the people that want that game will have already got it, just like any game now. But it's one of those things where this is probably a game that will go on sale, like you said, in the future, and people that go into like, I don't know, like Walmart in, GameSpot or whatever in the US, and then like Tesco's and stuff in the UK, supermarkets, and they go to the game section and they're like, oh, I want to buy the new Call of Duty. Oh, what's that Astro Bot? That looks pretty cool. Like, let's play that or whatever. It might not be the same, target demographic or whatever, but they might see it on sale and they might think, oh, it's only a tenner. That's pretty good. I'll pick that up. That's pretty badass.
It might also keep getting marketed, because I don't know if you saw this, but they've been marketed. I've seen ads for at least one ad for Silent Hill 2, and it was marketed with Astro Bot with Pyramid Head in the game.
Yes, I saw that, yeah.
So I'm like, if they can continue to like bring Astro Bot out for their different releases and stuff, that could continue. People be like, I've been seeing this Astro Bot for like a year or two. What is this,
Yeah.
And finally play it. So, because like you said, with the budget and everything, like, let's say this has sold 2.5 million copies so far. I would wager that that's completely paid off everything, paid everyone, and made profits at 2.5 million. Like,
yes,
because I know when Final Fantasy 16 came out last year, like a month or two after it came out, they said that they were like at over 3 million sold for Final Fantasy 16, and Final Fantasy 16's budget has to be like quadruple or more of Astro Bots, 5-6 times as much. And they were like at 3 million a couple months later. So like, if you've got a couple million for Astro Bot, I would think it's all just fun money,
I find it fascinating as well that like in Europe, it's been doing really well. Like, obviously it's been doing well in the US, but Europe, it's like, wow, like this is actually doing really well. And it's the fact that it's selling more than like Sonic Frontiers as well. Like, Sonic Frontiers is a legacy franchise, same with Crash.
And many say Sonic Frontiers is one of the best Sonic games in many years.
Yeah. And I think it's just crazy. Like, I don't know whether that speaks for like Sonic as a brand more than it does like Astro Bot's like success and sort of marketing or whatever and drive. But I think it's mind blowing that like this little game, because it is this little game that, I would say bottom level AAA game, I would say is probably the right word to use, not in terms of quality, but in terms of like production value and cost. I think it's mind blowing that this new platform, this new potential mascot in the new era of Sony is doing what it's doing. And I think that is pretty incredible, and I'm sure Team Asobi are just like over the moon for what they've achieved here, basically. And I just think it's mind blowing. I really do. I think it's awesome. I love Team Asobi. I think they deserve everything they've gotten with this. I really do.
Yeah, I think they should be like, in a sense, I think they should be put on the same level as like the other first party studios now. And I know that like something like Naughty Dog is way higher ambition, budget, time, expectations, but like as far as like Team Asobi is this team at this size doing this type of game for this kind of quality and turnout and result and return on investment, same level as like Naughty Dog and all those others. Like it fills a place in their portfolio.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's what we're starting to see that now. Like we went through a lull, I think, going back on the previous conversation we had we went through a very weird lull with kind of not knowing where Sony was going with the live service, not knowing where it was all fitting. And I think slowly it's starting to build up now where it's like, okay, well, we have our deals with our second party store. We have our mascot with Astro Bot now. Obviously, Little Big Planet's gone by the wayside. And then obviously we've got all like our sort of bigger studios working on like things like Ghost of Yotai and obviously like a new sci-fi from Santa Monica and maybe The Last of Us Part 3 and slowly with Naughty Dog. So it feels like now we're starting to see the Tetris pieces falling into where they need to be. Whereas before it was kind of, they weren't landing right, you know, like they were just filling to the top and it was like, what the fuck's going on? And then once it hit the top, Concord, that was Concord. And it was like, fuck, like that was the crumble. So,
well, that's a good segue, Joe, because our next article is about Concord. This is also from Push Square. Last one, article from Push Square. Concord devs are tinkering with PC files, spurring free-to-play speculation. We haven't heard much from the Concord front in recent days, likely because it functionally no longer exists. Still, there is plenty of interest amongst the PlayStation faithful as to what developer Firewalk's ultimate fate will be, and the always watching SteamDB has detected some small movement. Now, we don't speak PC and thus don't understand what it all means, but irregularly, since being pulled offline and as recently as yesterday, changes have been made to Concord's game files on Steam. Inevitably, this leads to community speculation that there's life in the game yet, that Concord could be gearing up to go free to play. However, it's doubtful that anything could scrub the stink off the allegedly huge costly flop at this late stage. So, Joe, I'm more kind of interested in what you have to say about this because I don't really know, like Concord having updated files in the back end on Steam as of a few days ago, even though it's been shut down for like a month. That does sound kind of fishy as to like, why would you bother if you're not going to do something with it? But I don't know if there's any like precedence for this being common with other shutdown games on Steam. I have no desire to be like pessimistic, and I think I would absolutely love to see Concord come back and find some level of success after what it's went through. But I'm having a hard time seeing how like just coming back more or less the same but free to play would work out for this game, because even when Concord was free during the beta, it didn't have enough players. So do you think this means anything, Joe? The back end update?
I think, I really do. And if you go to that Reddit now, it's been actually removed. So maybe something like that guy was hit with a cease and desist or some shit like that, but who knows? I think it does, because one, they're updating build IDs, which directly is a representation of the game itself being changed. It's not just like a listing or something like that. So if it was anything less, for me personally, it wouldn't be a build ID update. I think it's personally a sign of things to come. I think that they're changing things. I think they're messing with things in the back end, of course, and I think they're looking at free to play. I really do.
Wow.
I can't see them doing this and then not doing anything with it unless they're just experimenting to see if they can. Maybe internally what they're doing is like repitching it. You know, like repitching it to Sony, being like.
So help me understand, Joe, like how could this work for them? How could this be profitable? Like,
I don't know, Brian, because like they've got to like redesign from the ground up in terms of the systems in place, like in terms of how the characters work into the battle pass and how like all the customization works and everything. They've got to like redesign that in many ways to make it profitable under a free to play element, because before it was under the pretense that, of course,
you paid 40.
You paid 40 and like there was season passes and stuff, but for the most part, like there was no trickle in cost. I mean, like the amount of money things like Fortnite and stuff make on just like skins and stuff is unreal, of course. Like we know this, and it makes, like Colin Moriarty from Sacred Symbols has interviewed people and said in the past, like, if you're making that much money in terms of like packs and skins and stuff like that in your store, what the fuck is the point in taking these massive games as a risk, like, you know, a AAA game like Concord, or even just a single player game? What is the point in these companies making stuff like this when they can make a Fortnite or something like that and make just as much, if not more money by the dozen on those little skin packs, you know?
Yeah.
But if the game has, back to Concord, if the game hasn't got it in its grasp right now and hasn't got the systems in place, what is this costing Sony additionally that they've already put into this game as like is it a sunk cost fallacy at this point? That's what I'm getting at. Are they just like, are they putting more and more work into it, or is it something where it's not a, how would I say this? Like I said, it's not a like full on we're doing this. It's a internal thing that they're messing with and they're putting forward. But then to self-criticize, it's one of those things where it's like, well, why would it be updated on Steam publicly for everyone to mess around with? Surely they would take it off of Steam, which they have done technically, like public listing. Why are they even touching the Steam release? Why are they even touching the Steam game? It would be internal. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
There's lots of things about this that doesn't necessarily match up. But ultimately, I think the most obvious thing here is that they are testing things on like a back-end unlisted build, obviously that no one can touch, to test the waters with a free-to-play model. I can't see any other thing.
Do you think it could get a surge of players because Concord surged in popularity as a story after it was taken down? Like the whole, like, you know, the morbid curiosity of people and it being free to play.
Yeah.
And I also wonder too, is like the big selling point of Concord was supposed to be the weekly vignettes that are so expensive, the cutscenes. And I would wager a lot of them were done already, but like am I crazy to say that like if they come back as free to play, they're probably scrapping those because of how costly they are. Like they're probably not going to do weekly vignettes.
Bro, I wouldn't be surprised like if we get like a batch of them like as we play. Say this game like was chucked out free to play as a last ditch effort and it was going on for months, right? And it just happened to be on it, you know, it was on live support, for example, or whatever, or it was doing really well. Who knows? Like, say this was going for weeks and months. I feel like we're going to get like, they would do a batch of them that they've already done. That was planned, say, up to season 1, but because they didn't get the money for season 1, then I think that is where it just cuts. I don't think there'll be any more story. I don't think they'd be able to afford the acting talent and the team that they had, and even not even just a question of afford, just bother with having like a soundstage and a mocap and all the PCAP going on and everything. And hiring, like, you have to hire cinematic directors, you know, you have to hire directors themselves, you have to hire, you know, like mocap professionals. It's not just something where like a programmer can waltz in and be like, oh yeah, well, like we're gonna do this. It's like you have to have dedicated people for this, and if there's nothing, like no return on investment, and they'll have analytics for like whether people care about this stuff, you know, like how long people watch these cutscenes, whether they skip them, stuff like that. That'll all be in the back end for them. If they start to see numbers that are it's just like, this is useless, they won't carry it on in a free to play model. No way.
Well, I mean, even let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say like, because of morbid curiosity and free to play, between PlayStation and Steam, all around, there's like 30,000 concurrent. So like 10 to 15,000 concurrent on Steam, 10 to 15,000 on PlayStation. Could that player base ongoing with microtransactions even make the studio break even on the game? I would think not. Like, that's not very good.
I don't think it's ever going to break even. But again, I think if they leave it on live support for like 5 or 6, 7 years or something, and it really does stay at that level, you know, I mean, like Halo Infinite's on it at the moment, where it's like it's got like 4,000 players on Steam.
But they've updated the heck out of Infinite for years.
Yeah, they've updated the shit out of it, and that game, like, it peaks and valleys. It peaks obviously on the updates, but you're only talking about like 1 to 2 to 3,000 more people on Steam, which is fuck all for a game that expensive as well. You know, obviously we hear about the engine rebuild and stuff costing like $600 million and stuff, which is, you know, we don't know if it's true or not, but you know, it's an assumption, it's a guesstimate. And Concord could do the same. You know, I mean, if it had 5-digit player numbers on Steam alone, I feel like that's enough to give them a little bit of cash Not maybe to put into, like, not a lot back into Concord, put it into their next game, a smaller title, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But this all hinges on how giving Sony is, how giving Herman is at this point. And he normally is. Like, as far as I'm aware, the impression I get from this guy is he's very, very caring about his studios, which can be a negative, but we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, man, that's interesting. I kind of was leaning towards they still don't bring it back, but you make a good point that, like, if they're updating it, maybe just come back to free to play. I don't know the logistics of how it works. I would have just thought that them writing the game off and getting a tax cut would have probably been the path of least resistance from here on. But if they decide to re-release it free to play, maybe they have numbers and research to suggest that they could, extract some funds from it over some years to make it less of a loss.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. That'll be interesting to see. Next article, I'm not really so much fixated on the article. It's from Screen Rant. I don't really like Screen Rant that much, but it's just kind of to give us a bouncing off point for something I wanted to talk about. Until Dawn's remake may have been a big mistake. The Until Dawn remake might have been a big mistake for Sony and the developers at Ballistic Moon, at least based on the player numbers being reported since its launch earlier this month. However, it's perhaps no mystery why the game isn't seeing a lot of interest. It begs the question, who is the Until Dawn remake for exactly? The PC and PlayStation 5 versions of the Until Dawn remake have had a rough launch due to technical issues and bugs, but more significantly, abysmal player numbers. Steam database reports numbers as low as just 2,600 concurrent players at its all-time peak, making it one of the worst launches of the year. The launch is comparable to PlayStation's Concord, a game that performed so poorly that it was ultimately taken offline. It continues to be a worrisome trend of low-interest releases tied to Sony, with Until Dawn previously being only available on PlayStation consoles. So, Until Dawn was a PS4 game only that released in 2015, sold decently, people liked it. It wasn't the highest reviewed game ever, but people liked it. And that was by, was it Supermassive? I get those mixed up. Supermassive Games.
Yep.
And so this other studio, Ballistic Moon, which has employees from Supermassive in it, came back to remake Until Dawn for the PS5 and also bring it to PC. And then there's supposed to be an Until Dawn like movie coming out soon enough in the next couple years or whatever. So that this would be like a modern SKU of the product, modern day SKU of the product, that people could see the movie and want to get the game, or get the game, want to see the movie, and have that kind of synergy. But I haven't played either the original or the remake, but all I've heard about the remake is just go buy the original for PS4 for $20. The Until Dawn remake is $60. It takes the game out of the Decima engine that we know from Death Stranding and Horizon, and it puts it in Unreal 5. It's $60 on the PlayStation 5. The original is only $20 on the PS4. Both of them look beautiful. The character models are updated in the remake, but they look weird and they look older. They're supposed to be teenagers. They look older, and their like teeth and jaw lines are kind of weird. There's lots of technical bugs and issues, things popping out and in, characters not having as good of animation, cold like breath in the air not looking right in the new version. Lots of things just don't look right or look the way they used to, all from a higher price tag. And something else I thought was really interesting, I didn't know this until recently, Joe. The Until Dawn remake puts the camera perspective more like a third-person game. Whereas
it's more like over the shoulder.
Whereas the original Until Dawn was more like you guys kind of would picture from Heavy Rain or Walking Dead, where it's kind of from the side and you kind of see the environment.
Fixed angles. Kind of like tank controls, Resident Evil-esque. Yeah.
So, and this is just an opinion, an anecdotal opinion, but Colin from Sacred Symbols said that it kind of hurts the vibe, because where they would have like framed angles for like you to go to certain places and have enemies come out, and now it's the same thing, but you're from behind the character, so it doesn't have the same effect. It doesn't have the same mood. So between that and the bugs and the issues, also the PS5 remake is 30 frames and it's not even steady.
Oh, wow.
Whereas the PS4 version running on a PS5 is a rock solid 60 frames. So you can spend 60 on the remake where characters look jank, there's bugs and issues, it doesn't have the original fixed perspective, it's at 30 frames, or you could just pay 20 on the PS4, get everything as it was originally intended, 60 frames, runs great, characters look normal. I don't know what you're and this is the other thing too, on top of all this, Joe, even if it was a perfect remake, doesn't it seem kind of like a weird choice? Like, how many people were dying to pay full price for a remake of this game on the PlayStation? And how many people who didn't play it on the PlayStation, only have a PC, were over on the sidelines going, come on, PlayStation, bring us Until Dawn. We need Until Dawn on the PC. It just seemed like if it wasn't for the fact there's like a movie, I would see no reason to why they did this. I think clearly the reason is to have that synergy with the film, but it doesn't seem like many people really wanted this. And even though they got it, it just seems worse than the original product, which is cheaper. So to me, honestly, this has made me interested in buying the PS4 edition. I've never played the game. It's made me legitimately interested in this game and playing it. But I don't want to play the new one. The new one just looks like ass to me. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this, Joe? Like, do you think this project will pan out for Sony or Ballistic Moon, or are they just going to lose on this? Like, what?
I think they're taking the L on this. Very similar to Concord, it's got a very low player count, as low as 2,600 on Steam, which isn't quite as low as Concord, but still rather low, especially for I would say a cult favorite or a fan favorite game on the platform. You know, like Until Dawn was pretty big. You know, it was this schlocky like 80s like referencing murder. Tropey, like very trope indulgent, I would say, like, you know, tale of teenagers getting murdered, you know, very Friday the 13th and stuff like that.
It's very sensual, like the, you know, Susie's dating Timmy and blah, 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 and it's I like him. And
you're just waiting for like the blonde bimbo to get murdered and stuff. It's like, it's the typical stuff. And so this was developed by, I mean, Supermassive is British. They're a studio of 350 people in, I think, Guildford or something like that, like down south. And then Ballistic Moon is also British as well. Obviously, predecessor Supermassive Games, like you said, same developers, similar employees, whatever. They were founded in 2019, and they're located in Surrey, which is also down south, you know, similar to where Guildford is and stuff like that in the UK. And they haven't made anything. This is their first launch. This is their first release, you know, since they founded this kind of like subsidiary or, you know, successor or whatever they want to call it. It's not really a subsidiary. It's its own thing. And this is a shame. This is a shame. You know what it screams to me? It screams to me that like everyone's always on about like Unreal being the engine that like fixes everything and the new thing. You don't need things like Source Engine, and you don't need all these like proprietary engines within Sony, and you don't need a Blam engine in Halo and stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's good and everything, having an all-in-one unified engine such as Unreal and stuff like that. But ultimately, like, I think what Unreal sometimes can do, and I'm not necessarily judging the quality of Unreal. I'm not judging the quality of Unreal at all, because Unreal is a very, very like fucking awesome engine. What I am somewhat judging is the talent behind who is working on that engine for the games they're making. So they've clearly gone away from Supermassive, gone, oh, we can build this game on Unreal Engine 5. And I don't know whether, obviously we don't know, this is me speculating. I don't know whether they're like, they've cut corners, or they just haven't got the technology to work from Unreal and the scenes and everything to work, like kind of not necessarily transition from Decima, because you can't do that with engines, but like transfer the vibe and the feeling and the work state and stuff. And obviously these are people that have worked on Decima before. No doubt they have other employees who didn't come from Supermassive. And it just feels like this is like a word of warning when it comes to flying too close to the sun with Unreal and stuff like that. Like, Decima was there. Maybe the licensing was too much. You know, like, this isn't an owned studio. You know, it's a collaborated studio. So maybe like they didn't want to pay to use Decima once again or something like that. And it's one of those things where it's kind of like, bro, like, yes, it's good. Unreal's great, but you had all of that prior experience with Decima, which, as far as I'm aware, is a very, very, very awesome and capable engine. You know, it's been used by Kojima. It's obviously made by Guerrilla. And to see them kind of switch up an engine to completely change the like Colin said on Sacred Symbols, the style of it, going over the shoulder third person, not having set fixed camera angles, making characters look weird and stuff. For it to make that sacrifice and then also charge full price for it, along like next to a game that came out a while back that is technically more like proficient and just works better, is wild to me. It's asinine, and it's one of those things where it's like you said, what is the point in this? If you're obviously it's to tie it into the movie, but aside from that, all you're doing is pissing off people. It seems like the people, the hardcore, you know.
See, and here's what I don't understand, and this is actually not a hindsight is 2020 thing. This is something I would have thought 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Why didn't they just take the Until Dawn on Decima for PS4 and make a PS5 version that just makes the resolutions and the frame rate better and offer a $10 upgrade and then also retail package the PS5 version to go alongside the movie? Like, wouldn't that have been easier, cheaper, less risky? I mean, why didn't they just do that? Because there's another thing too, is like, you'd probably have more interest now too if you could just say, oh, $10 upgrade. It's like the Horizon Zero Dawn remaster. It's like, oh, $10 upgrade. But right now it's, if you already own the game, $60 again for the remake, which is worse in many ways. Or just if you don't own it, you could go buy the PS4 version, which runs at 60 on PS5 for $20. So
yes, yeah.
What do you think made them decide, like, especially with this type of game where it's kind of like I don't want to say point and click, but you know what I mean? It's more of a kind of a choose your own adventure type game.
Yeah.
Why did this game of all games did they choose to go from the ground up remake in a new engine? This is basically like the same endeavor as the Last of Us Part 1 remake. It's the same level of endeavor, except it's obviously not the same level of game, but like it's the game rebuilt from the ground up.
I really do think it's Decima. I think even though they probably like that engine, they don't want to stay on it because they have to pay license to Sony proper. Like they have to. You can't just keep making games on an engine like, you know, once you've got it. Like you don't own the engine if it's not yours. Like you have to pay that license. And
Ballistic Moon is partnered with Sony. Couldn't they work something out with Decima? I mean,
I know, but like maybe they take more of the chunk for it for using Decima. I don't know. I really don't. We don't have that. You know, it's kind of one of those things where we like more information, but we don't have it, you know, at our fingertips. And I mean, I'm looking at the trailer now, the comparison between the old and the new game, and it's like there's fundamental changes to like lighting, which
there's parts of the game that were night before. It's just fully daytime.
Yeah, they fully daytimed it, and like lighting on people's faces, like object source lighting on the side of people's faces and stuff like that, which weren't there before. And it seems like the game in general is just like getting a much like a brighter sort of lighting to it, which is strange and can kill the vibes for a lot of people. I played Until Dawn when it first came out. I played it on the PS4.
Did you like it?
I did. I enjoyed it. I didn't beat it. I got like, I would say a third through it or something. But even that game, when that game came out, it had like technical issues for me personally, where like frames were really bad. Like I
wonder if that's an issue at all on the PS5 with the PS4 version.
I don't think so. As far as I'm aware, like when the PS4 Pro came out, it was like so much better than the base PS4. I actually interviewed the people that made the game. I remember going down south. Yeah, when I was training to be a journalist, I was sent as part of my student magazine to interview Supermassive, and I interviewed the producer, the creative director.
This is wild, Joe.
Yeah, it's wild. And went on a boat. It was awesome. They let us play. It was Man of Medan, I think it was. Yeah, Man of Medan, which was set on a boat. That's why they set it on the boat. They set it on the HMS Wellington. And I was around like loads of other journalists and stuff like that. It was good. It was good. It was a good time. It was
what
really
game
fun.
is that? Is that before or after Until Dawn?
Until Dawn was before Man of Medan. As far as I'm aware, Man of Medan came out after.
It must have not did very well. I've never heard of it.
It was all right. It was pretty good. Like I have a buddy who loves these games, and it was really good. I remember asking. I straight up asked them like blankly. I says, obviously there was like technical issues on Until Dawn. Has that been fixed? Like, what stages are you taking? Like methods are you taking to like sort this out and stuff? And they were like, oh yeah. And they gave me like a normal, like a fob off answer or anything. But it was like when I asked that, they were like. Like they didn't know how to respond to that because it was almost like they were getting like throughout the day, from my impression, they were getting like people sort of like kissing their ass a little bit. And I was just this random like lowly student journalist who was just like, what about this? Because this was my experience.
That's awesome, dude.
It was good. But yeah, this is weird. This is very strange. I just don't understand it. I understand it from a business side with the whole like cross-promotional side of things. But ultimately, I feel like you're just taking an L with this, especially from a monetary standpoint. So,
do you think I should buy? I've been considering. Do you think I should buy the $20 one until dawn?
I think you would like it. Did you like? Do you like those kind of games, which are like narrative?
I love the Walking Dead Telltale games.
Yeah. I think this is not narratively anywhere near that, in my opinion. Nor is it anywhere near Life is Strange. But I've heard that people love it because it's like its own little horror thing, right? In that realm. Walking Dead is kind of horror, but it's not really in many ways. Yeah. So this is like, it's like a playable movie. Like I think you'd like it. Pick it up, give it a go.
Yeah, I think I might do that. That's like two DoorDash runs, bro. Until dawn.
I bet Erica would like to play it as well. Like,
yeah, she'd probably play it with me.
Yeah.
And then every time there's a scene where someone's like, if you want to get lucky tonight, you better follow me. Then Erica's going to be like, did that need to be in the game?
She's going to be like closing her eyes.
Yeah, because my wife's a prude, so it's funny.
Yeah.
Okay, last story, not much to touch on here. I don't think either of us are interested in playing this game, but I just thought it'd be cool to touch on. We may have a clear front runner for what will win Game of the Year this year. It'll definitely be a contender. Metaphor ReFantazio has released to a 93 Metacritic must play. It is, I think, tied for the highest Metacritic this year with Rebirth, I think, unless Rebirth went down. It might be number one. It sold 1 million copies the second that it went live. This is basically the spiritual sequel to Persona 5. It's by the people behind that game, but it's a fantasy version. It's not in the Persona series. It's called Metaphor. But it's a very like cel-shaded, artsy, anime, weeb type style game. 80 hours to get through it, 80 to 100 hours. Turn-based combat from the makers of Persona, but just highly, highly praised, critical acclaim, and amazing sales. I would guess that this is easily going to hit 5 million by Christmas. If it hit 1 million the second it went live. Yeah. So it's one of those games where I admire its quality so much that I would like to play it and be a fan of it, but I also just am not interested enough to get myself invested in something so big. I mean, and if you want, you can actually download the free demo right now and lets you play the first like 10 hours of the game. So the demo would be more than enough to let yourself know if you want to spend money on it.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah.
But I don't think I'm going to jump into this one, but I definitely have a lot of respect for it. Joe, what are your thoughts on Metaphor ReFantazio? Its immediate success. Do you have any background or thoughts on the Persona series going into this?
The only background I have with any form of Persona is like via like as a second party individual in terms of like my friends loving it, right? Like I have a friend, Fox Caleb, who loves these games. Like he loves them to death. I think he 100%ed Persona 5. And I think he's played like Persona 4 and stuff. Yeah.
100% on Persona 5 is probably like 150 hours.
Yeah, like he did all of it. And he loved every minute of it. And I watched him play it actually because he streamed it a bit ages ago when he used to stream and stuff. And it was a fascinating game. Art style is pretty incredible. I would say that for the. I mean, Atlus shares a art style. It seems like across all their games, like they have that cartoony anime vibe, which is pretty cool for people that like that. I really have. I mean, it's not surprising to me that this game is selling like fucking hotcakes because it is, like you said, it's the next big thing from them. I think it's cool. I really don't have much to say aside from get your bag, get your game in. This looks sick.
Not something you'll play.
The only issue I have with these, alongside obviously it being like very weeb and stuff and JRPG, is the fact that it's very long, like you said.
Yeah.
I can't commit to a game like this when I don't really know if I like them on that level yet. Yep. I need like a smaller game, and that's one of the reasons why I know it's not the same, but like Sea of Stars and stuff, I really clicked with that game and stuff because it's a short game, right? It's more accessible and stuff. I know it's a smaller budget and everything, but yeah,
the demo could probably satiate that issue somewhat, but
maybe you got
to be looking for that. Like I just don't think you're looking for. you're not trying to find a big 100-hour anime game to play. So
yeah. Like I want to start with a 20-30 hour max experience.
Yeah.
So yeah,
totally. But yeah, I mean, what do you think? I mean, this is that's it for our news articles today. But like, what do you think is looking to be game of the year, Joe? I know off the top of my head, we got Astro Bot's a contender, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth's a contender, Metaphor ReFantazio is a contender. Some have said Dragon's Dogma 2. I don't think there's any way it will win. You and I could maybe say Helldivers 2,
maybe,
but it's tough to say.
That might just get best multiplayer game or best action game or something. I don't know.
Best live service game of the year. But I don't know what. I mean, I think that's it for like real notable.
Could Silent Hill be in there? I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. It's a remake from Bloober. It's got an 87 on Metacritic. I mean, I would be cool with that. But
so the only reason I say that is because like Spider-Man is in like high 80s, just like Silent Hill.
True.
And
maybe
same with Ghost of Tsushima, and both of those were nominated. I think Ghost of Tsushima was for Game of the Year.
Okay.
The years they came out. So it's not like you have to hit the 90s for Jeff's amazing award show.
True. Yeah.
You can be in that like late 80s window, which I think
wouldn't that be cool for Bloober? Because before this game, Bloober would never imagine seeing a Game of the Year award. Like,
yeah. I mean, I think they'll just be honored to even get nominated, given like what they've been through in the past with people like myself doubting them and stuff. So yeah, but I think this is up. This has got to be up, right? Like it has to be. Like it's a surefire spot. So yeah.
I mean, we got Dragon Age coming, which could potentially. The only reason I say could be there because I mean, Inquisition did win 2014, so it's not like it's unprecedented space for that franchise to enter. We got Call of Duty Black Ops 6. I can't imagine that would be there.
No.
There is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, but I think it actually comes out after the cutoff period for voting. So I don't think there's anything else that would really. Who do you think is going to take it? If you had to guess, Joe, like I'm thinking that it's either going to come down to Metaphor ReFantazio or Rebirth. And the reason I say those two, I think Rebirth because so many people will want that to be the game of the year.
Yeah.
But I think ReFantazio because it's actually a new property doing something new.
Yes.
Which is more likely to win the sentiment of game of the year than Rebirth, which is just like another remake of an old game. So I think I'm going to go with Metaphor being the most likely winner. But what are your thoughts?
Well, this is a year that's not for me at all. Like, here's the thing. If Helldivers... I mean, Astro Bot will be up there. It has to be. Otherwise, I think that's a snub nomination, personally.
Yeah.
But aside from Astro Bot, I don't see Helldivers being on there. So this really isn't a year for me to care. I mean, not that I normally tune in and watch Game Awards that often, but it's one of those things where this is going to be a double that for this year. It's going to be like, oh, okay, like I guess it's all weeb stuff this year, I guess, you know. so I'm just going to be like, yeah, okay, cool. I'm glad one of these won, whatever. But it's weird, right? Because I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was pretty impactful, but I think for even just like the greater Final Fantasy community and stuff, it just feels like it's kind of like been and gone, and people are kind of waiting for the third game in many ways, and sales aren't like Square's not happy with the sales, and obviously critically it's up there. But it didn't feel like it made as many waves as Remake, which I don't think it was ever going to, just because Remake was such a profound upgrade over... It
was the first of its kind.
Yes. But ultimately, I got to agree. I think Metaphor will probably take it, given the... Yeah, definitely. Given the criteria that you just brought up. So yeah, definitely.
Cool. Let's talk about what we've been playing, Joe. I have been working my way through Silent Hill 2 with my wife. Ooh. So kind of moving at a slower pace because we're only playing when we're together. We're both scaredy cats. To be fair, probably more me than her, but she screamed a lot. We're probably like 6 hours into an 18-hour game. I guess what I'll say is I'm extremely impressed by Silent Hill 2. Mm-hmm. I'm very glad I bought it. I'm having a great time. I would compare it to Resident Evil 2 remake in its quality. But for me, my personal taste as a gamer, I'm just not, and I think this is the opposite of you, Joe. I think you love this. I'm just not a big fan of the find 3 gears and 2 pins to rebuild a machine, to unlock a puzzle, to get a key, to open apartment 204, use your map to clear off all the checkpoints to find the next puzzle.
Yeah.
You know, there's writing on the wall. You need to solve the riddle to move forward. I just like going through dark hallways and shooting crazy monsters and having crazy scary stuff happen. Yeah. I'm really not a fan of the puzzle stuff. So I've been letting Erica play more than I intended because I'm like, oh, well, this whole segment is puzzle, 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 follow the map, clear off the map, puzzle.
There's a lot of map following. Yeah.
And that's a lot of what Resident Evil 2 remake was, which is what it should be because that's the original. But obviously someone like me, I loved Resident Evil 4 remake because that's more action, you know, more arcadey in that sense. So I am getting everything I wanted out of Silent Hill 2 and more because it's so much better than I expected it to be.
Yes.
It looks great, plays great, awesome atmosphere. I'm loving my time with it. But I don't really enjoy the puzzle solving that are in these type of games. So it's maybe not one that I'll replay because of that. Like I've never replayed Resident Evil 2 just because I'm just annoyed by the puzzle stuff. And I'm like, especially when it's like you go all the way to this room and it's like, oh, you can't go in this room because you don't have a key. And then it's like, you need to go down 3 flights of stairs and past a bunch of enemies to get this one piece of a thing, and then go 2 rooms over to get this other piece, and then fight this guy, and then drop this thing through this hatch to get this third thing, combine the 3 things, take it back over, then you get the key, then you can go all the way back to the room that you almost went to an hour ago. I just hate that stuff. So, but that's not a criticism on the game. That's just my
tastes,
my taste in gaming. But I think it's everything everyone could want from a Silent Hill 2 remake, and if you like that puzzle, like Erica loves the puzzle stuff, solving stuff. She reads the riddles and figures them out, and I'm like, that's possible. I'm like, that's possible. When I read a riddle, before I'm done reading the sentence of the riddle, I already have IGN guide pulled up, and I'm just looking at the answer. I don't even try, bro.
Yeah.
So game's phenomenal, having a blast. But that's kind of where I'm at. We're not even halfway through the game. It's a lot of fun. Totally would be up for it being game of the year. I like where the story's going. I've heard the story's amazing. So I'm interested to see where it goes completely. I have theories. I mean, we know this is a psychological thriller. And obviously you played the original Silent Hill 2 before. I haven't been spoiled on the game, but I would wager due to, what we're doing, what he's there to do, psychological thriller, I would guess a lot of this shit is in his head. A lot of this shit is mental, what's even real and what's not type deal. That seems pretty evident to me, but I don't know the full story. So that's great. As far as what I'll play after this, I'm considering 2 things because I have some time to play when Erica's not around. I'm considering either replaying Arkham Asylum because I'm just in the mood.
Okay.
Or buying Until Dawn. Which I'd probably want to play with Erica as well, but I'm really kind of like intrigued by Until Dawn because like the conversation about the Until Dawn remake sucking has made a lot of people talk about their love for the original. And I'm like, oh, well, I never played that. So, and it's $20 and it's 60 frames and it's the better version. So, and luckily I don't think Sony will up the price or remove that version because it is the only version available on the PS4. It's not like I guess they took Horizon Zero Dawn and upped the price for that. But like, there's no way to play Until Dawn remake on the PS4. So they kind of need to keep the PS4 version there. But yeah, so I might play Arkham Asylum for some like nostalgic feels. Might play Until Dawn, but right now it's just Silent Hill 2. So that's where I'm at.
Good. Yeah. What would you give Silent Hill in terms of out of 10 so far? What would you?
Based on what I've played, well, not even halfway through. It's 8 or 9. I'm leaning 9. I think my biggest complaint, and it's not really a complaint, is like, I remember when the game was like being shown off, people were like irritated with how it looked.
Yes.
I think whatever the problems were with how it looked, I think that's been fixed because I think it looks great and I think it feels like the original.
I think one of the problems they didn't like the main character's face, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's been fixed. Yeah. And it's got the vibes and the feels, but I think technically it doesn't, technically to me, and maybe I'm crazy, it doesn't feel very impressive. Like, I don't think it looks as nice as Resident Evil 2. I don't think it performs as smoothly as Resident Evil 2. I don't think it's as tight as Resident Evil 2 or other games.
Yeah.
So it strikes me as like, it does strike me as a high quality AAA game by a competent studio, but it does strike me as maybe Bloober doesn't have the polish sauce that other developers would. So that's where kind of would bring it down from a 10 to a 9.
Okay.
We'll see how the pacing goes and stuff like that. I know, like, it feels like me and Erica have been in the apartment buildings for 3 hours. And I know in the original, I've heard that in the original, you pass through the apartment in like less than 30 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that could be...
They fucked around with some stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it could be good, could be bad. I'm not sure. So there's definitely some like frame rate stuttering issues, which I guess from Digital Foundry I've started to learn is a Unreal Engine 5 problem.
Yes. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Where games will just randomly stutter and the frame rate will be like 60, 60, 60, 55, 50, 54, 32 to 69, 55. And they go right back up to 60. And it's like, what? For no reason. Doesn't matter what hardware.
Jedi Survivor had that issue as well when it came out. So
yeah, I know a lot of people were saying that like that could be a real issue for Halo now. It's going on Unreal 5 as well. So
yeah,
stuttering in the first person shooting gameplay. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, Unreal Engine's good at most things, but that's definitely one flaw there, and it's in Silent Hill too. So
yeah.
But I don't know. Before we talk about what you've been playing, Joe, do you have any plans to pick up Silent Hill? I mean, you kind of mentioned like maybe by the end of the year, but you know.
Yeah, I really do want to pick it up. I want to pick it up before the end of the year for sure. It's just I think it's going to be the game I play after Cyberpunk. It has to be.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. You're going to love it. You're probably going to play through it like twice.
Yeah, I'll definitely go for the platinum on it and stuff. It looks good. I look at it though, and I do see like it's nowhere near like as tight and refined as a Capcom remake. Like it's just not.
That's how I feel.
Like the way you hit the enemies, like the nurses and stuff with the board and stuff, the 2x4 or whatever, and it's like it looks good. But there's something about like the collision and the way like you bonk them. It's kind of like
it's like it feels good enough that you don't feel like you should complain, but you're like, I've seen this done better.
Yeah, like the nitpicking definitely comes through, but ultimately it does look very good. And I've seen like, because I know the story and everything, I've like watched spoiler reviews for this remake and stuff, and in comparison to the original, and there's certain scenes in it that like don't hit the same as the original, like in terms of the severity and the expressions and stuff, and it just kind of feels a little bit off. But ultimately, it doesn't bother me. Like, it's not going to stop me from buying the game and enjoying it. You know, it's a game I haven't played in 10 years, maybe a little less, 8 years or something. So it will kind of, in many ways, be fresh for me to get into it, which will be nice. It won't be like, oh, I'm doing it again. You know, it won't feel like I'm dragging my ass through. But yeah, so after Cyberpunk, it's one of those things where I really want to like, I don't want to rush Cyberpunk, but I also don't want to like sit on it for ages, you know, because I have played it before.
How many hours have you put into it so far?
About 10, 15, something like that.
Okay, you're in enough that you need to finish it before walking away. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, sure. Definitely. Yeah. So yeah, but I've been really enjoying Cyberpunk, but yeah. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, before we get into your Cyberpunk, I was just gonna say, like, I jump really easy at scary games, and I've jumped a few times during Silent Hill, but probably the worst one so far was, you know, the mannequins in the game. They're for those of you who don't know, the mannequins in this game, they're basically human legs, but the torso and head is just another pair of human legs.
Yeah, it's like, what it looks like flipped upside down. Yeah, so
like legs on legs, and they will hide around corners, and that's scary enough. But I went around a corner, and there was, so they're called mannequins, but me and Erica call them leggies.
Yeah, nice.
And I go around a corner, and there's a leggy there, and it makes me jump a little bit, and I kill it. And as soon as I kill it, I go back around the corner, and there was a leggy standing directly behind another leggy. So I went around the corner after killing one, and there was another one there, and my soul went to a different dimension, bro. So
game's doing its job then.
Yeah. So it's great though. But yeah, so Cyberpunk, you put a bunch of mods onto it. You have Phantom Liberty now, which I don't think you've started Phantom Liberty.
No. That's going to be way after. Yeah.
But yeah, how are you feeling to be back in the world of Cyberpunk?
This game is gorgeous, bro. Like, honestly, so my mods are like kind of quality of life improvements, right? So like I've changed some HUD stuff. I've got an immersive HUD, because one of the things that always used to bother me about Cyberpunk was when I was playing it, like everything was on screen at once when I wasn't in combat or anything. So like I'd have all the buttons on my face and everything, the map and everything, and it'd just be like, do I really need all this when I'm just kind of like trying to enjoy the world and, you know, like as someone who's got programs in his brain and chips and metal and stuff, I should be able to turn it off at a moment's notice, you know, logically speaking. Sometimes, you know, you want to see the world. And so I've got like a mod for that, which like immersively changes the HUD depending on the situation I'm in. I've got like a HUD color changer. I've put a reshade on it. So like Cyberpunk is naturally a very warm, like yellowy game. I've made it so it's more blue and cool and realistic and stuff. So I really like that. And it like pops the details out much more. So I've been doing that, and then like just little bits and bobs, like adding my own vehicles to the game and stuff like that, like vehicle customizer. I think I spoke about this on the previous episode, but TLDR, I've got about 50 to, I think I've got 75 mods now in it. So not a lot, but enough for me to be happy. And I'm not going to add anything else, I don't think. And yeah, dude, like I got into it, and the first thing I found was like this game is, I started on the Nomad start. Game's beautiful, dude. Like honestly, like the desert, the world you're in, the fact that like it chucks you straight into this character, and it's like, okay, like you're just V, and you've got to go about your way. You've got to deliver this package on this start, and you know, you're messing with your car and like plugging in different things and making it start in this garage, and you know, with the mechanic. And yeah, dude, it's like people are in your face like big time and stuff like that. And it's just like, bro, honestly, like when I went back to Starfield, or when I played Starfield, the first thing I was thinking was like, why is this game not hitting? And like in the back of my mind, I knew how amazing Cyberpunk was, right? When I played it in its state around the time when Edge Runners released, right? Just after Edge Runners released. But fuck me, like going back to it now after we've spoken about Starfield ad nauseum like we have, it's like, bro, like no wonder like fucking this, like Starfield did not hit for me. Because in the back of my mind, subconsciously, I was just seeing like Jackie and, you know, Johnny Silverhand and all these characters that are like fully in the world and moving around, and the detail that was going on even at the time. Like now it's even more detailed. You know, on the PC, I played it on the PS5 at the time. Now it's on the PC, so it's on an even better platform to really extrapolate those details. The world, the characters, the gunfighting. I'm doing like katana builds at the moment, so I'm like running around like slicing people up with a little bit of pistol action and stuff, playing it on a harder difficulty, so I have to make sure I'm like checking my ammo and I'm, you know, approaching situations correctly and stuff. You know, I've just not just done, but like I did the Maelstrom mission just recently, which is a really like in I think it's in Whole Foods or whatever it's called, where they put the gun in your face and stuff, and like I think it's Royce comes out and puts this gun in your face, and it's like right there, and it's like, whoa, dude, like that's fucking badass, but like you need to take that shit out of my face, you know, like that stuff, like honestly, just all of it, and the level of like decision making you can have just on that mission alone, where you can like you can talk to Meredith Stout at the start. You don't have to, and then she can give you a chip that can like take down Maelstrom's systems, or you can pay for the robot and then get out of there and not fight. You can side with Maelstrom, or you can side with Meredith, or you can side with none of them. And there's so many elements of just awesome shit in this game.
Game's incredible.
Like, honestly, like it's wild. Like when I play it, I'm like, this game is next gen. Like if this game as it is now, obviously fixed and everything, came out now, I'd be like, this shit's impressive. Like this shit is really impressive.
Tell me if you agree, Joe. I feel like it reminds me of different parts of different games, but I don't know that there's any one game out there like Cyberpunk. Like there's parts of Cyberpunk that remind me of a Bethesda game, but it doesn't feel like a Bethesda game. There's parts of Cyberpunk that remind me of Grand Theft Auto, but it's not a Rockstar game. There's parts of Cyberpunk that remind me of Witcher, but it is a CD Projekt Red game, but it's not Witcher. But all in all, what it does is it feels like it kind of creates something new, because it's got some of like the city freedom of GTA, but then with some of the RPG freedom of Bethesda, but then the quest design of Witcher. But then it all comes together, and it feels like something new, and it's so cinematic, and it's so beautiful, and the characters feel like if you're going to go to two extremes, Cyberpunk's characters feel closer to a Naughty Dog character than they do a Bethesda character, which is like a shell of nothing. Yes. But a lot of the way that Cyberpunk is represented at first, I think I would have assumed I was going to be in for more Bethesda level NPCs.
Yes. No,
But what I'm
get
getting
you.
is something much more closer to, I mean, Naughty Dog was the extreme, but maybe I should just say Witcher. Like the Witcher high quality NPCs, you're getting those in that first person open world RPG sense in Cyberpunk. You're getting that quality.
Yeah.
And I think when you get like, you know, comparatively to Bethesda, you get better quality visuals, you get better quality writing, characters, story, quest design. I mean, combat. I mean, the thing is, it doesn't really, like I said, it doesn't really fully feel like a Bethesda game, but like it kind of does almost everything Bethesda does better. And then it borrows some great elements from GTA, and it takes a lot of CD Projekt Red's greatest strengths. And it does feel like a next gen project, a next gen game. Like I can't really think of one game that feels like, oh, it's like, okay, Joe, I enjoyed Cyberpunk. Give me 2 more games to play that are just like it. I can't think of any.
Like I can give you Cyberpunk games, but they ain't going to be Cyberpunk 2077 games, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like give me 2 other games that'll feel like my experience playing Cyberpunk 2077. There's nothing.
I can give you like you said, I can give you Witcher, but it's like that's a fantasy.
It's different, like, third person fantasy. Like, you could give me Starfield. Like I'm not kidding, Joe. Like Starfield would be like a somewhat tangential. Hey, you like Cyberpunk, so this is like a NASA punk, you know, same perspective, RPG, but it just isn't as good, you know?
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
So
yeah, dude, it's crazy. And it's one of those things where like I know where like all the story's going and stuff because I've like watched like other people play the game, see the other endings and stuff, and it's like even though I know where everything is going, aside from Phantom Liberty, I don't know anything about Phantom Liberty, which is good. I'm glad I don't. It's going to be really, really awesome to play this game through all the way through to Arasaka Tower again and see everything. And I want to do all the endings I can in my playthrough, just like keep going back to them and seeing them in my own on my own screen and stuff, because that would be really fun. And it's wild, bro. Like I always say, like it's fascinating. I always think this, like The Witcher 3 is my favorite one, like one of my favorite, if not the favorite, like my favorite game of all time. And I love The Witcher 3. I adore it. But there's something about Cyberpunk, even in its most flawed state in terms of its narrative in and of itself and its characters, its world, is so potent in that like I can relate more to that world because it's closer to mine than anything The Witcher has, right?
Well, one thing I haven't said this podcast is I have never felt more like as an RPG with characters, I've never felt more like their actual friend.
Yeah.
Like V feels like me. And I don't say that like, I mean, I'm not some tough, you know, guy with, you know, like I'm actually nothing like V, but like when I play as V, I feel like I'm embodying V, even though he has his own voice.
Yes.
And stuff. But like, I feel like I'm him. And then when the characters talk to me, you know, what are all the characters? I mean, Johnny Silverhand
Panam.
I'm blanking right now. Give me some of the other character names, Joe.
Panam, Jackie.
Jackie. Yeah. Jackie, when these characters talk to me, I feel like they're talking to me through the screen. Like I'm their friend. And when something happens in their story or they get hurt or they die or a quest finishes, I feel like I've built a connection with them that I don't even feel like. My favorite RPG of all time is probably Final Fantasy VII. Now that's like pre-established characters even more.
Yeah.
I don't feel it that way. Like to me, like I love Cloud, Tifa, Aerith, all this stuff. I love them. But to me, they're like characters in someone else's story.
Yes.
But when I play Cyberpunk, I'm like, I can't believe I got to leave Panam behind. I got to leave. Is it Judy behind?
Yeah, Judy. Yeah, Judy. Yeah.
Like I got to leave Jackie. Jackie. You know. Oh man, it's like the way that it's actually kind of scary to me because like I felt emotionally attached to them, and I didn't feel that in Witcher or any other game I've played. I just something. Yeah. It feels next gen. Yeah, bro, I thought I stole it from you. Go ahead, Joe. Yeah.
When I always say this, like when I don't think I've rooted for a video game romance. Like this is the thing. Again, like The Witcher 3, read all the books prior to this, know all about what Yennefer and Geralt have gone through. Obviously, in the games, they brought in Triss to be the stand-in romance for Geralt up until The Witcher 3, and then even then you can still pick her. I was rooting, obviously, for Yennefer, and I picked Yennefer because that's the way I think that Geralt would go, right? That's the way he'd go. It makes sense, given the pre-established context. Even though I have all that background with The Witcher 3, when I played Cyberpunk for the first time, the only time I played it back in the day, I have never rooted for a romance in a game like mine and Panam's. Ever. I was fucking, I gotta be honest, I was simping. I was like, bro, like, this is, like, every time she wrote...
She seems a little too real.
Bro, every time she wrote up, I was like, Panam. Like, it was like, bro, like, what the fuck?
She seems a little too real.
Yes, it's weird. It's weirdly good. It's really... And it's like little things like, there's a moment in the game, I remember it, like, you can make a move on her. And she's like, whoa, slow down. It's like little things like that where it's like, bro, like, that's fucking, like, that's way real.
You're like, that's what I experience in my real life all the time. This is real.
This is real. Damn. But yeah, dude. So it's just little things like that, bro. And the same with Jackie. It's like when I was playing it, like, I mean, spoil. Can we talk about spoilers? I guess it's light spoilers. It's in the trailer. It's in the trailer. They did this. They spoiled this death in the pre-release trailers anyway. But Jackie dies, right? Like he dies.
Like early
He's heroes. It's early game. It's like within the first 10 hours, right? The first like big heist you do, whatever. And I'm not kidding. Like, bro, like I want more with Jackie. I wish, like, you know, that cutscene where like it's the montage of you like working your way up in Night City and working with fixers.
I love that, dude.
And,
so cool.
Yeah, dude. Like, and
they made you like, love Jackie. They put so much effort in him for him to die quickly.
Yeah, he died so quickly. I was like, bro, I want more time with this guy. Like, clearly that cutscene was like cutting room floor. We can't get this done in time. We want, like, you know, we had to put this cutscene in because we didn't have enough time. It worked. And like, yeah, when he dies, it's like, fuck, bro. And it's the same with Johnny Silverhand. It's like when you talk to him and stuff, he's an absolute dickhead. But like everything about him is like, bro, you're like reaching through the screen and grabbing me.
You feel connected.
Weird. Yeah. And
symbiotic relationship. Yeah.
It goes double as well because, you know, as you play through it, it's almost like when you start off as V, you're a bit of a knob. Like, I don't know if you noticed this. Like you're a bit edgy, you're confrontational, you're a know-it-all. But I've noticed, like, when I played it, my character, my V, started to become a little bit more open-minded and caring and more about family and stuff. Obviously, it's based on your choices. And I was like, that's really good because it allows me, myself, to present onto V way more than like I did at the start. And that's like, it's interesting because normally you get you get that at the start and it normally goes all the way through to the end with characters in games, right? Like, you know, like your character is normally just a blank canvas in most games. So it's like in most RPGs. So yeah, dude, I just think it's a phenomenally, like, I just drive around a lot of the time and just like listen to the radio.
Yeah, I do the same.
Yeah. And just drift around corners and stuff and have fun.
Like, it's just fun to live in this crappy world.
Yeah, this terrible, terrible world. It's so pretty and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I've been playing. Cyberpunk 2077. And a bit of Helldivers as well. I've been playing Helldivers with Darren recently, which was very fun. I jump on that every so often to enjoy it. So
Helldivers seems like it's just an evergreen game to just come back to.
It is indeed. But yeah, so there we go.
That's awesome. Okay, Joe, why don't you hit us with your special question before we get out of here?
Yeah, so it's inspired by Silent Hill 2, but it's basically, what are your top 5 survival horrors?
Okay, I'm going to just preface this by saying I can't factually say these are my top 5. I'm just going to go with the top 5 that are memorable or influential to me because I don't know if I've played a ton of horror games, so I'm not like. Also, I don't want to just be like, "Oh, Resident Evil is half the list" or something like that.
Yes, yeah.
But I can easily say for me, boring answer number 1 is Resident Evil 4. I just love that game. Maybe even the remake. Like, I remember when they announced Resident Evil 4 remake, I was pissed because I was like, the original is so good and it's on modern platforms. Just don't mess with a good thing. And then remake comes out, and I'm like, damn, is this better? Holy shit! Like, is this better than the original? Like, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But damn, like, they both are so good, but I'm like, damn, it's so good. So Resident Evil 4 would be my number 1. Another game I want to mention is Amnesia. That was a game that I watched people play online first and thought to myself, well, I'll never be able to play that because I'll shit my pants.
PewDiePie.
PewDiePie he blew up on that. Yeah. But I did play it on PS4 eventually. Great game, very scary, atmospheric. It's got this very unique vibe I really like.
Yeah.
Another scary game I played through, Outlast. I was just telling Erica yesterday. I actually made Erica laugh. I'm surprised. My wife is such a prude, as I've said. But I remember I was telling Eric, I was like, yeah, I was playing this game. It's a horror game, Outlast. And it's like, it has this feature when you're running, you can hold the left or right shoulder button to put your head back over your shoulder and see what's behind you as you're running. And you're in this prison with naked dudes, and I'm running away from this guy, and I put my head over my shoulder, and I look back, and there's this dude with his dong just flapping left and right, thigh to thigh behind me. And I'm like, man, I was already scared, but now I'm even more scared. There's like a freaking dong flapping behind me, So like that's a memorable one.
Yeah.
Another shout out. This is why I said like it's more of a memorable list for me, because this game does not deserve to be in the top 5 horror games, but the original Slender Man, which was you just download this small file from the internet for free. Have you ever done that, Joe?
I have. I beat that game. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't beat it. Now, this seems ridiculous. I've definitely told the story before on different podcasts, but the most scared I have ever gotten from any video game ever was Slender Man, the original. And it's not just because it was scary. It was because I was lied to. So I knew better than to play Slender Man, because I was like, I'm going to get scared because this dude's going to, stalk me from behind me, and I'm going to be scared. So I can't play it. Yeah. Well, then I'm on the forums online, and people are saying, yeah, Slender Man only comes out once you collect the first page, because to beat the game, you just got to collect, I think it's 9 pages.
8, I think. I think it's
8 pages.
Yeah.
You just go around this like little forest area. There's like a bathroom, some trees, and you just collect these pages, and they say things, and you collect the pages, and that's how you beat the game. Every time you collect a page, Slender Man will stalk you heavier and heavier. Well, the forum said that he doesn't stalk you at all until you grab a page. So I was like, okay, I'm going to download this game, and I'm just going to wander around and explore because I think it's such an interesting game. It's this free-to-play download thing.
Yeah.
And I do it, and I download it, and I am playing it for probably 10 to 15 whole minutes.
Yeah.
Just wandering around, and I'm just casually playing, knowing for a fact there's no way Slender Man can come out. And I come out of the bathroom, and I'm out of the bathroom, and I turn around, and I turn around, and in the doorway to the bathroom is Slender Man staring back at me. And I am not joking. I screamed bloody murder, and my keyboard and mouse flew off of my computer desk onto the floor, and I fell backwards in my computer chair.
No way.
Massive freak out, dude. Keyboard, mouse, chair, me. Scream. I was like, it was like, okay, I'm going to give you an imitation here, but close your ears. You ready for this? Here we go. It was like
close my ears.
Ah! It was it was horror. I was horrifying. It was horrifying.
Okay.
That was the most scared I ever was. Ever.
Yeah.
And the reason, like I said, it wasn't just because of the game. It was because I was operating under the false pretense that it couldn't happen.
Yeah.
And it did.
And it did. Yeah. So it got you double as hard. Yeah.
Yeah, it scared the absolute shit out of me. For a number 5, I'm trying to think what I would choose, because like Silent Hill's new for me. Mm-hmm. I don't want to listen to the Resident Evil. I already said Outlast. Already said Amnesia, Slender Man. Oh, that's kind of tough for me. What? Oh, actually, you know what? Okay, I would say if I was listening to my top 5, I'd put Alien Isolation in there.
Okay,
but that's just because it's a great game that's horror. But I'm going to go instead with Doom 3. Doom 3 used to terrify me as a kid. When Doom 3 came out, I was 12. And Doom 3 it's super dark. You could only hold a flashlight.
Yep.
Or a gun. You could not hold both at the same time. So it was just super dark, and there's lots of demons, and there'd be like satanic, like ritual stuff going on, and like terrified me. Absolutely terrified me. Yeah. So yeah, I get scared really easy.
Yeah.
So it kind of sucks that I like horror games, because like it'd be best for me to just avoid them.
Yeah.
But I just think they're so fun and unique.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's 5 for me. So what are your?
Yeah, you don't really get like a lot of the gameplay mechanics in traditional survival horror games don't really cross into other things, right? Like the whole resource management thing is not really a thing in like action games and stuff. So you don't get it. Like,
well, that's why if I was listing like my top 5, I know like Dead Space would be in there because there's no resource management.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah. Dead Space, Resident Evil 4, Alien Isolation, like those are 3 that are like just. They got the horror and the combat, but they don't really have the puzzle stuff that I don't really care for.
Yeah.
But over to you, Joe.
List. Yeah. So this is definitive. So it's more
top 5.
This is top 5 for me than Brian's list. But my first one, Dead Space. It has to be. I mean, just mind-blowingly good video game for the time. Like, Ludo narratively consistent all the way through. Everything you do in that game makes sense. It's not like just Isaac's fucking around, taking his sweet time.
UI.
No UI. It's all like built into the rig system. Yeah, it's so cool. I love how weighty it advanced tank controls as well, like really well. After Resident Evil 4, I think it was. Obviously made by Glenn Schofield, Redwood Shores, Visceral, whatever you want to call them. I think it elevated the survival horror genre to like a whole new like level of detail in terms of like how you can approach your combat elements and stuff, like in terms of cutting off limbs and stuff. That's still not really a thing that's ever been like done as well. Even in like Callisto Protocol, it's not as good and stuff. Just a phenomenal video game that just oozed uniqueness and skill and also restraint as well, because it's like a really well-paced video game. You know, there's certain elements that are shit, like there's some turret sections that are just a bit like crap, and they updated them in the remake and stuff, and they're better for it.
I feel like the final boss annoyed the hell out of me.
Yeah, just shoot the glowy things, which is like every Resident Evil game, you know, the trope. But and I would also like, this is kind of cheating alongside my second listing here, is I would also include the remake in that as well. Like, even though they are both number one for me as top best survival horror game of all time, OG and remake sit along. I think that remake is a better game, and I would definitely play remake over OG any day now. But they both, for what they are, sit side by side. And the same goes for my second one, which is Resident Evil 2, and that's the OG and the remake. The first time I played Resident Evil was the original on my uncle's PS1. And it was fucking terrifying. I was way too young to be playing it. But I kept playing it because I was completely fascinated and enthralled by it. And I couldn't really get the controls down. I couldn't, in my brain, figure out tank controls and everything going on. Like, it was weird to me. Why aren't I behind the guy, you know, like in other games, and, you know, like in Jak and Daxter or Ratchet and Clank at the time. But it was still a phenomenal time. And when I go back and play OG every so often, I still get more scared in OG than I do in the remake, which is surprising.
Are you getting did you get the PC version that just came out?
I'm going to get it, but I haven't got around to it. But yeah, it's definitely on my list. But bro, like, the OG was so fucking good at the time. Like, the environment, I would say the PlayStation is better than the Spencer Mansion personally. I think the game in general is better than the third one, even though the third one had some obviously sort of quality of life improvements and changes which were welcomed. And then the remake is the same. Like, the remake is just so good. Like, it has so much replayability. Mr. X gets a little bit annoying, but when you first like meet him on your first playthrough, he's like, oh my god, like, he's fucking terrifying. Like, the stomps as you walking through. And
is it weird to me that, like, I feel like I'm not a big Mr. X fan?
No.
Like, it's a cool concept, but like, once he's there, I'm kind of like, I just want to go back to the regular Resident Evil experience.
It makes sense. Yeah. As someone who like played that game a shit ton and got the platinum on it as well, I can double that and say, yeah, he gets fucking annoying once his novelty wears off.
Yes,
he's a glorified annoying ass timer that just bothers you. So yeah, I 100% agree with. That's why I kind of liked OG, because if I remember correctly, the tyrant doesn't follow you all the time. He's like in set places, and I like that more.
And in the remake, it's just he's always following.
He's everywhere in that PlayStation. So yeah, that's my second pick, Resident Evil 2. I mean, it's just good. Like, it just is. Third one is Silent Hill 2.
Oh, real quick, I want to ask you, Joe. I want to know how. I feel like I'm alone on this, but like, I feel like Dead Space 2 is really close to 1. Not as good, but like,
it is good.
I feel like Dead Space 2 is like everything I wanted in a sequel.
Dead Space 2 at the time. Now we've got the remake of Dead Space 1. In my opinion, there's not really any reason to play 2 or 3. I mean, there was never a reason to play 3 anyway, because that game is dog shit.
3 is trash, but I mean, I feel like 2's awesome.
Yeah, but 2, before we had the remake of OG, I would say that Dead Space 2 was like, gameplay-wise, the definitive best Dead Space game. I don't think the story was as good and the characters were as good, but that game, like with the zero-G improvements and stuff, being able to fly around and the expanded weaponry, and I think some of the environments are very cool as well, being on like, I don't know what it's called, but you're on like the sphere or the station, which is cool and stuff. Yeah, very cool. The only issue I had with Dead Space 2, not to tangent, is the end is basically a big long rush of regenerating enemies, and it's just fucking annoying, and it's like, bro, I just want this over, especially if you play on harder difficulties. So the Dead Space 2, very good, very, very fun, very awesome. Yeah, but my third pick, Silent Hill 2. For obvious reasons, this game for me always did like an incredible thing where it has less is more, in the sense that like while Resident Evil 2 had like so many enemy types and loads like awesome like variety of environments and so many weapons to use and all this stuff and different bosses, and it really delved into the creativity in that regard. Silent Hill 2 did delve into the creativity, but it also just did it in a very refrained way where it was like, okay, you have limited supplies, like very limited supplies compared to Resident Evil, and the environments you're in are very like subdued and like mute in color. And instead of it being like a literal problem, a literal event happening like the apocalypse, you're actually it's all psychological. Like there's mist and this area, and it's just a very unique way of doing the characters and stuff. And I loved how it twisted things up and changed things, and it like played with what's real and what's not in the narrative as well to boot. So yeah, Silent Hill 2 just mind-blowingly good. And I guess for number 4, it's got to be Alien Isolation.
Great pick.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most like refined Alien games out there, if not the most refined Alien game. Very, very, very just authentic. The Alien AI is innovative, and I wish more games implemented something similar, because it made everything unique and cool and like unprecedented and unpredictable, and it just made it feel like you're actually playing against a real fucking being instead of like something that's scripted.
Dude, isn't it sad that like Alien Isolation is a modern day horror classic? It belongs alongside some of the best horror video games ever made. And it came out 10 years ago, didn't sell that well, and IGN gave it a 5.9, dude. It's just, I mean, it's just like, there is the part of me that likes to make fun of like, IGN, and I love Ryan McCaffrey. It's like, IGN reviewer gave it a shitty score. Don't you feel bad? There's the other part of me that goes like, dude, it's a travesty because that game is really special. It does not deserve that score. Like that score, IGN's like the biggest. That probably they lost a lot of copies probably because of that horrible score.
Bro, if you go back and watch that review, I would argue that everything about what he says is a skill issue, or he just doesn't understand what the game is trying to make him do. I think because he like this is the thing. I sympathize with the fact that like reviewers have a very finite time window and they have to get these reviews out for the sake of like the review embargo and also, you know, getting clicks and stuff. But ultimately, I mean, for fuck's sake, you're IGN. Like, take your fucking time. People are going to look at your review. People are going to listen to your voice. You need to slow down with games in general when it comes to this stuff. And if you're not appreciating what the hell the game's doing and you're not understanding it and you're like if you're banging your head against the wall all the time when you're playing this game and like things aren't clicking with you mechanically, take a minute to go, is it me or is it something else, you know? And I was doing that with Starfield all the time. The
game's so special. I have 2 moments I can remember. One is where I was like, okay, so in Alien Isolation, you have this little thing on the wall. You got to like put your card in to save the game. Yep. You have to physically put your card in this little machine to save the game, and it takes like 3 seconds. Yeah. So you can't get hurt in that 3 seconds or it won't save. I remember it was like at the bottom of the staircase, and at the top of the staircase was the save thing, and I knew that the alien was around me. And I was like, if I can just gun it for that save thing, right? Yeah. And I start gunning it, and as I get close to the save machine, you can hear the alien moving. And I get my card in the save thing, and it goes like 1 second. It starts to go the second, and suddenly I hear a noise, and I look down, and the alien has stuck its tail through my chest and killed me before I can save the game, and it's over. And it's like, that's so genius, dude. So cool. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like I give Alien Isolation an 8 out of 10 because I think it has massive issues with padding. Yep. And in my memory, pretty bad issues with like technical issues, like a lot of stuttering, shimmering, frame rate, the cutscenes looking weird, but it's so good, dude. So good. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever played a more source material accurate game ever. Period. Like even like The Witcher 3 and stuff.
Yeah, they were given the materials from the 77 film to remake it in a game.
Yeah. It's mind-blowingly good. I mean, I had like to bounce off what you said, I had one situation where like I fucking was in this vent, like quiet as shit, and I could hear the alien like killing like people outside, like quite late on to the game, and I had the flamethrower, and like it just went deadly silent. Like I heard him scramble, and I thought he scrambled into the fucking like vents above. And so I am like, okay, it's good. So I pulled up my thing, blip, 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 and it's like beeping, right? The motion detector. And I see like on the, like, you know how there's like the circle, like that semicircle that's on the left hand side to say there's something just outside the scanner range. And like I turn, and I'm not kidding, this alien is in the vent. He's looking at me.
Yeah,
like
it happened to me too.
Like, bro, he's not running at me. Like any other game, this AI would be running at me trying to kill me, right? This alien's just stalking me. Like he's just sitting there, like in the dark. Like I'm talking like 10, 15 meters down the vent. And I literally turn, and I've got my pistol out, and I'm like, shit, I got my pistol out, so I had to get the flamethrower out, and I'm like, and I like burn it, and it goes away, but it's like, fuck, that was terrifying.
It is, dude. It feels like that AI never got, like that specific AI never got followed up on. That's why I'm so glad they're doing a sequel now.
Yes.
Awesome.
Make it good.
You might be 30 when it comes out though, Joe. So
don't say that, Brian. Don't say that. It's over for me.
What's number 5 for you, Joe?
Number 5 is a game that I don't know if you played, but it's called Condemned Criminal Origins.
I beat it. Yep. Good one.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I think it loses it in the latter part of the game because you end up like stumbling upon like some weird cult conspiracy thing that just doesn't make any sense really. And it's kind of cringe. But the first 3 quarters of that game, and particularly the first quarter, is amazing. And I think one of the reasons why it's so impactful is because 1, I played it too young, and 2, the start, basically what the game is you're going after like this serial killer, if I remember correctly, right? You're trying to find this guy, basically. You're a cop. And you find a crime scene, you go through it with like a buddy, like a fellow cop, and you get sort of like, how would you say, put out by him. Like you lose track of him, right? Like he disappears, like you can't find him, you get separated. That's the word I'm looking for, separated. And you're on your own. And you're in like this flat, this derelict, rundown, unrenovated flat that's completely dark. And there's like people in there, like with you, like vagrants that just want to beat the shit out of you and stuff. And like I remember like the first sort of thing I did when I was a kid is I obviously walk forward, and as you walk forward, like this guy bolts it past the doorway, and you're in the dark, but you can just see his silhouette go past, and it's like, bro, like, and I remember turning the game off. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, oh, fuck that. So but aside from that, there's so many elements of that game that's awesome. Like the melee combat is actually pretty fun. The shooting's a bit shit. There's one mission where you're in like a clothing shop or a mall or something, and there's mannequins, and the mannequins move and stuff, and it's like, fuck that. Like, that's terrifying. So yeah, Condemned Criminal Origins, not the best survival horror, but probably top 5 for me.
Dude, that was one of the highest quality early Xbox 360 exclusive games too.
It was really good, yeah.
Did you ever play the sequel? I bought it and never played it.
I did, yeah.
Was it good?
It was okay. It went more actiony.
Yeah.
You'd walk around and your fist would be in your screen, and you'd be like punching people. Yeah. So yeah. There we go.
That's a great list. I completely forgot about Condemned Criminal Origins. That's a great one. That's actually, for those of you that don't know, Condemned, the people who made Condemned went on to make the Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War series. So that's probably what they're known most for. But yeah, Condemned was brutal. Yeah. And the thing is, like, I even played it years after it came out, so it looked bad graphically then. So now I'd probably look at it and be like, man, this looks like freaking lasagna ass. Yeah. Horrible, but like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's got such a grit and a darkness to it. It's freaky. The mannequin part, especially. Like, I think the mannequins in that game scared me more than Silent Hill 2. But
yeah.
I don't know.
There's something about a static object in front of you that you saw before coming alive and moving or whatever. It's like, that's horrible.
Exactly, dude. Exactly. Okay, well, that's it for our episode, guys. Very horror focused here at the end, which I really love because we're a couple weeks into October here. Yeah. I very much feel like I want to download Until Dawn now, just because I'm on that kick. I'm talking about these things with you, playing Silent Hill, loving the horror vibes going around right now. I also want to get into every year I watch Sleepy Hollow with Johnny Depp.
Great
Tim
film.
Burton movie. Yeah. Just great horror vibes. I watch it every year at this time. But yeah, it's been a great year for Sony, despite everyone thinking it wouldn't be. Lots of good games. We've still got more games coming here. We got 3-ish weeks for Dragon Age, Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, your Call of Duty, all that stuff. So it's been a good episode. Joe, do you have anything you want to say before we get out of here?
No, I'm excited for my desk that's coming in a couple of weeks.
You'll be standing in one of these episodes.
Yeah, like you'll just see the camera start going vertical, and you'll be like, "Oh, Joe's flying."
And then I'll see his mirror in the background, realize that he's not wearing any pants. I just see ass cheeks.
just see my British ass. Yeah,
yeah, your hairy British ass in the mirror.
Yeah, so. Yeah. We don't have HR here, so we can't complain.
Yep. Nope. Can't complain. Yeah. But yeah, guys, if you want to leave an email or a voice clip, send it to criticalframes@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on Twitter, that's at criticalframes. And if you want to be a patron, go to patreon.com/criticalframes. It's only $5. Different benefits there, special episodes, different things. But yeah, we really appreciate you guys' support. We thank you for listening, and we will see you next week. Peace, guys.
Peace. Critical Frames, a PlayStation podcast, is created in partnership between Brian Arvett and myself, Joe Smalley. It's available on all mainstream audio and video feeds. All music featured in the show is by Caleb Webster. We're incredibly grateful to the following All Access Pass patrons for the support they've shown for this independent venture: Boba's Feet, Darren.jpg, Diente D. Hombre, Irish Phoenix, and Music Tree.